You know, one of the things that is unfortunate that most people don't really realize is that God is so far ahead of all of us. And God's plan, the Creator's design, it's unmatchable. It's completely unmatchable. It's where true happiness is. That's truly the divine inheritance and the goal for every human soul, to take the steps necessary to be in alignment with God's will for your life, because that is your purpose. You're programmed for your purpose already. Most people don't have the ability to recognize because they don't have the self-awareness, or they just don't have the right perspective. Even in terms of the way that things unfold into our reality, every human being's reality. Look at things like the waves generationally that have come through, that have led us to this point now. In the last 40, 50 years, how graceful and merciful God is to each of us, even non-believers, even atheists. In the way that we receive information, the way that it's woven into our culture and our society. First, understanding addictions, understanding codependency, and then understanding the cycles of trauma bonds and narcissism. Just in the last maybe 10 years or so, the word narcissism has really flooded, become very concentrated in our world. And for some people, that was annoying. You know, there's a lot of ways that even that was used as a weapon. It really depended on who you've been in your life. But for some people, like myself, the first part of your life that you started to better understand this energy that you've been dealing with, likely your whole life. It had me very introspective, because I'd never really understood why it was that I kept attracting the same person in different body. And they came from different backgrounds. They all looked very different physically on every end of the spectrum, from an addict to a boss. But ultimately, they also all had something in common. And it was the way that they treated me. They all had a different weapon, a way that was their go-to way of harming me, belittling me, controlling me, trying to diminish my light. Whether it was verbal, physical, psychological, emotional. It was really the same energy that just kept repeating over and over again. 2019, 2020, when I was almost completely drained. I was on maybe the third cycle of trauma bond, in the discard phase. And it was right around the time of my 40th birthday. And I had already become a PhD in narcissism thanks to social media and books and my own therapist. I started to also observe within myself my codependency. I was also at a really difficult point in my relationship with the first narcissist in my life, my mother. Every connection that I had was just so strained. I didn't understand why all of this was happening, and it felt very heavy. I was really just trying to juggle everything that was happening at work, having so many direct reports, and of course with the pandemic, everybody was calling off and still trying to make everyone happy, and managing 2 departments, 24/7 hospital. That in itself was enough to really drain anybody. I mean, I had to use PTO, if I could even use PTO, to go to the doctors just for a normal checkup. I've been trying to put boundaries in from where I was at that place, and if you've ever tried to put boundaries in from a place of defense, it really doesn't work out well. I didn't know that at the time. Really way that I knew that was familiar to me to truly try to navigate my way out of that was to really pray. Understand why I was like developing this like real apathy, and burnout is what I was calling it at the time, but it really was an apathy. I didn't want to turn bitter towards the people in my life, but I felt like there was nobody that I could talk to that really would even understand what I was going through. I talked to God all the time. I've been close with Jesus my entire life and always been very vocal about it. I never really felt a need to. Until I got him tattooed on my arm, so then people sort of realized, oh. But my relationship with Jesus Christ has been very personal and intimate to me. Source of guidance and understanding since I was a small child. I would be driving to work every day, and sometimes I'd be on a meeting before I would even have my kids dropped off at school. Tired. If there was an argument with either my mother or my daughter, and to juggle the turmoil, I wasn't even juggling peace. Of course, you want to be able to be honest with people about what you're going through, but when those connections are strained, they're strained because they were built off of your codependency. They were built off the protective shield of your ego, whatever I hadn't had an opportunity to really look at yet. Until, again, I didn't know this at the time, but it's an unreasonable, if not impossible, expectation that any of those people could truly even receive me or understand at that time. And be able to have me receive from them either, because I was feeling this call to like pull away and at the same time wanting to be understood. And at the same time trying to maintain a balance. It's like I wanted to communicate with my job about what I was going through, but obviously there was little that they could do actionably in the moment to really mitigate whatever circumstance. They had an open position for another clinical manager to help support me. Lack of them not wanting to help. It was like they didn't really know how to, but I also didn't know how to tell anybody to help either. It's like, well, I just need another me. How ironic that thought was at the time. But would ask some things of people or try to elicit support or help, whether that was just helping manage my time with my kids or just being more concise and articulate in directions and requests that I would make of people. Sure that if I didn't want to go somewhere, if I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that I let people know, and at the same time being probably a little bit more apologetic than I needed to be about it. It was almost like a destruction that there was nothing I could really do about. I was not in control. And I would ask God every single day on my way to work, like, what am I supposed to do here? I don't know what you want from me. Like, tell me, what day am I supposed to quit my job? Like, should I go to a different part of that medicine? It's like, I knew my time was sort of coming to an end there at that clinic, but I wasn't sure, like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to take care of my kids? How will they get through? They'll all be mad at me. Everybody will be disappointed. My team, like, who can do my job? We can't even find somebody else to help me right now. There's a million different reasons going around in my head, around and around and around. And then simultaneously, my daughter, who at the time was 15, she was just going into her sophomore year of high school, really starting to really go down the wrong path, having difficulty in her relationships with her friends, and she was just really out of pocket with the way that she was talking to me, and the respect was just dwindling. Very hard to like communicate with her. It was hard to get through to her. No respect for the rules. But I mean, it was so blatant, like sneaking out, buying things that she didn't need, and I didn't even know where she was getting the money from, and not returning my calls, not going to school. It was a mess, and had the acknowledgement that my mother was enabling quite a bit of that behavior, trying to manage my relationship with her and like trying to get her on board with her respecting my boundaries and my rules, because it was like they were working against me. I would put in place for my daughter as a boundary or a rule, or to discipline her, ground her. If I would take her phone, my mom would go buy her a phone. If I would ground her, my mom would come over and encourage her to sneak out of the house. Like, this is my 80-year-old mother we're talking about here. Her name is Mary Grace Rollins Pellegrino Brochet. I'm not here to villainize anybody. I'm here to align with the truth and to narrate my own story. People who are living in their truth, people who have not done things to harm other people, they're not afraid of the truth. Like, the truth isn't afraid to be confronted. So I was like, this is my experience, and this is the role that people chose to play in my life, and you can lock me in a digital cage, but you cannot take my voice. And I have a lot of doubt in a lot of people, especially right now, and I still know there are good people out there that will help elevate my voice and help me share my story. So they cancel this platform, or they cancel any other platform that I make in the future. Like I said, this is probably about, I want to say maybe my 7th or 8th attempt in the last 2 years. They just false flag everything and then shut it down. So sometimes it takes longer than others. It seems like the closer and the more vocal that I've gotten about the truth is like anytime I'm speaking directly to the people that have harmed me, that when I make a platform that it's a spoof. They alter numbers, and unless you're paying very close to the details, you would miss it. And once I realized that like every following that I had was like either a bot or a psyop, or just people that wouldn't be organic into my algorithm. I would try to block people, but then they would pop up again. Utilities or, different parts of the application that I knew were missing, because I would, look at like the desktop version from the library or from a friend's phone, or see that it wasn't normal. Like, there was things that were missing that I couldn't adjust, like my location to more of that, and show you a little bit more of the receipts later of what I'm talking about here. But starting to really come to a head, about through COVID, and I still was having kind of this weird tension with MedVed about, me being resistant to being vaccinated, and whether that was intentional or whatnot. I did agree with them that I was a leader, and I knew I had to lead by example and set an example for my team, and I didn't want to cause a big revolt or anything like that. So, I complied with wearing a mask, and I complied with the rules. It's a very difficult situation to be, that have like direct reports that you're responsible for, and have upper leadership also too, but like have that misalignment. And even in that situation, I was kind of a scapegoat. And what I recognize, though, again, self-awareness, is that energy goes with you everywhere you go. Like, you're not just a scapegoat in your family. You're a scapegoat with your friends. You're a scapegoat at your job, in your relationships. Like, the energy is within you. And so along with all of that, the last trauma bond I was in, my job, my daughter, everything having just like kind of this upheaval. The best way I can describe it is like this turbulence, It wasn't always a lot of fighting, but it was like always a lot of tension, miscommunications and misunderstandings, and some of it being willful and not willful. And it was just like nothing was really going smooth. My son's dad, Nick Edelberg, so I was a single mom up until then, and my daughter had a lot of medical issues. She was born with a birth defect called Pierce-Robin syndrome, which is a combination of micrognathia, which is a receded jaw, and bilateral cleft palate. She had really severe obstructive sleep apnea as well too. So she, as a consequence to that, had to have a lot of intervention as a baby, and we spent about the first 6 months in the hospital managing her initial care. When I met Nick, it was a sense of normalcy that I hadn't had really in my life ever at all. You know, Nick's parents are still married, Chris and Bill Edelberg. He also is a twin. I'm a twin. Her name is Angela. Like, the connection just made sense. You know, we were friends initially. Nick was the first person that I dated that had like a very normal upbringing, like no real trauma. I don't want to say cookie cutter, but just pretty typical. You know, parents still married, and high school was pretty normal. It's got your typical group of friends, and they all like football, and, you know, all the girlfriends and wives are friends. And Nick was very good with finances and budgeting and money. It was like kind of his thing. He's into like flipping houses and stuff like that, and real estate and all of that. And that was something that I really never had an opportunity because of my upbringing, and then kind of spiraling into having a child with medical needs, and then her father passing away, and then being, you know, a single mom making, I think when I started at the emergency clinic, I made like $6 an hour, and then I started going to college. I was actually in college my first semester for my second degree when her dad passed away. So, you know, Nick was pretty good with Melina too. Initially, they got along really well. That's my daughter's name, Melina. They got along really, really well. Nick and my mother, not so much. They never really bonded or anything like that, but I got along very well with his family. You know, both of his parents were very kind to me. They were very kind to Melina. Easy in the beginning with us, and you know, you only see the benefits when you're identifying the things in other people that they're doing for you, instead of seeing that person for who they are. Whoever healed that wound, or if that becomes less of a priority for you in your life, then, you know, the relationship is going to change. But at the time, I didn't really recognize that, and I would have, you know, better understood, you know, the control around finances and money, and just for Nick being able to identify where I had a weakness, and I just felt like that was natural. Like that him helping me like understand my credit and budgeting, and me being open and willing to do that, you know, allow him to sort of take the controls in that area. And he wasn't dominating about it in the beginning. People thought it was very weird that he was like managing my finances and stuff like that, and I had a full-time job, and I didn't think it was weird though, because it was helping me. It was for my benefit, and people didn't really understand that. But we had our son in 2014, William. I had a very difficult pregnancy, hospitalized, I don't even know, probably 7 or 8 times. Eventually put onto bed rest. I had a Zofran pump from having hyperemesis gravidium, to routinely receive IV fluids. I ended up developing idiopathic constipation from the Zofran as a side effect of that. I had like complete stasis at one point. Terrible. The only thing I could eat was carbohydrates once I could eat. So I packed on about 80 pounds, and with muscle atrophy. And so it was just, I was a wreck. I threw up literally every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. Just initially, I didn't even know how I was going to survive. I had no idea. I mean, it was that nonstop. And the medication only took sort of the edge off. I mean, it was constant, like, you know, saliva, and I couldn't smell food cooking. I really couldn't do anything. I was so weak. I remember when my daughter started school this year, the year that I was pregnant with my son, I used to have to like literally drag myself to the window, and we had a window that went all the way to the floor, and I would like look out the window and just be staring at her and like waving to her to get on the bus, you know, because I literally couldn't even walk to the bus stop with her because I was so sick and weak. And it was really tough. It was a terrible pregnancy. Strong intuition, but this is one area that I don't know if I just ignored my intuition or whatnot. I always wanted to have a son. I didn't really want to have more than 2 kids, but at the time I didn't anyways. And I wanted to have a boy though. Like I always wanted to be a boy mom at around 15 weeks because I had to have so many ultrasounds because I was so sick. That definitely helped carry me through because I found out that, you know, we were having a son and I was so excited. I love my son so much. I'm going to get cheesy every time I talk about my son because of what's going on right now. I'm probably going to cry, just so you know. I typically pray and cry in private. It's such a really horrific and emotional experience that I'm still going through. But in terms of like when it comes to my son, you know, I just love him so much. He's just the best kid. He's such a great kid. And you do everything you can to like protect yourself and protect your kids. And it's like to know that like people could just like be so like evil to be like preying on you and your kids is just it's a very horrific, weird feeling. It's even weirder to think that it's still happening. It's like, how can anybody be letting this happen to us? But the end of my pregnancy, I was just absolutely miserable. Totally miserable. I felt some kind of way about having another child, not being married, knowing that I wanted to have that family and all of that, but it was like there was something still sort of missing, and it was like I didn't want to ever have to push anybody to want to marry me. And at the same time, I was upset about the fact that my son and I were going to have the same last name, and I have a daughter with a different last name. And I think Nick did feel some kind of way about that too, but I think, you know, he had some bit of reluctancy. I'm not sure if, you know, I don't want to speak for him in that way, but he did end up giving me a ring. It was like the day of my baby shower. It's like, oh, here you go. I should have recognized even through that process, you know, there was things there that I overlooked. He had me pick out it wasn't a diamond. It was I think they're called moissanite, and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap either. You know, it wasn't like a cubic zirconium you go get at Wally World or anything like that. But at the same time, like, it wasn't a diamond. And the thing is at the time, you don't recognize moments like this where you're teaching people how to treat you, where you're letting people know like what you'll accept and what your value is, of course. But also too, you don't recognize those little moments where somebody is also telling you how much they value you. Our son was born and he was perfect. And you probably think I'm biased or whatever, but I'm really not. He really was perfect. He's a great kid, and he was a great baby. I mean, it was just such a sharply different experience than the one that I had the first time, you know, when I was 25 and my baby was taken from me right after I had her, and had to be intubated and taken to another hospital, and then spending 6 months living in the hospital, in a rehab hospital by myself, and not being able to do anything that would be a normal experience for a new mom, from feeding, you know, because she had a feeding tube, and to sleeping. It was like the whole experience was not normal at all, you know. It was traumatic. I wanted to just do everything that I didn't get to do as a new mom with my daughter. And I worked at night at the emergency clinic. I went back to work like 4 weeks after having my son because of the financial struggle that we had, you know, while I was pregnant, and not able to work off and on when I was hospitalized. And so I just I loved it though. I get to be at home all day with my son and think together. Got one of those, like, I wouldn't say I was like a full crunchy mom, but I got one of those little like baby carrying things, like where you wear them and stuff. And I used to go to the farmer's market. I got a little jogging stroller. I started trying to lose the weight and, you know, really just build my muscle back up a little bit. My son got like one of those big blenders, and I would buy all of his vegetables and fruits and steam everything he ate. He's never had baby food. And then I got to breastfeed him also. I only breastfed for probably about like 8 weeks, but it was really just the experience of doing it and being able to have that bonding experience with him. Oh my God, I hope I don't cry every time I mention him. It was just such a beautiful time. Being able to be in nature with him and take him for hikes with me and just getting to have that bonding experience. And even thinking back on my own childhood and stuff, it's sad to me that so many people don't even get the opportunity, even if they want to. And so I was very blessed to be able to have that time with my son. And even though I was super tired all the time going into work, it was just great to be at home with him and not have him have to be at a babysitter's or in daycare right away. He did eventually go to like a preschool when he was, I think, 3.5, 4. Such an easy baby. He didn't get into anything. He didn't put stuff in his mouth. He really didn't cry that much. But his Grammy was really, Nick's mom was really the only one that he would willingly allow to hold him right off the rip. Like, I could take him over there. And he loves Nick's mom. He loves his Grammy for sure. They've had a special bond too. But he really was just such an amazing baby. And my daughter was the perfect age. She was 8, and we're looking to move to a neighborhood where settle down in, and the market was like really slim then as well, especially for like our budget. But, you know, Nick had already had some rental properties and things like that. So we knew when we were going to buy a house, it was going to be solely in my name. And we ended up finding a house in Strongsville, Ohio. And, you know, I was not crazy about it. It was very outdated. It was like 2,000 square feet of wallpaper, red and green carpet, and it just had never been updated. It had multiple layers of shingles. It was going to be a lot of work. I wasn't thrilled about it at all. But Nick was very eager. He assured me that he was going to be able to finish at least the floors and the walls before we moved in, before, you know, we actually had to move in before my daughter started school. And the elementary school was right down the street, so my daughter was going to be able to walk to school and or ride her bike, which she was really excited about. So we ended up moving into the house. I was really focused on, you know, my health at that time. I had started to lose weight and had really started to like really build my confidence back up. And it seemed like the more that I did that, the more like sort of Nick's uneasiness around that, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. He would be really derogatory towards me about that. Like, he really hesitated to ever validate me and acknowledge like me. And you don't recognize these things in the moment until you do, right? And it was like my awareness of certain things that I wasn't receiving just became more and more obvious. And it was like his method of resolution was to get more controlling, especially around finances. Like, that started to be a very big issue. Like, even me getting my hair done or, you know, going and get my nails done, it was like there always had to be some negative put down around that, you know. And I think still to this day he doesn't understand like why that's not okay. Like, keep working a full-time job. It was like I worked 40 hours a week emergency room, and I was taking care of 2 kids in a house, and you know, making sure that my family had everything. You know, I used to pack Nick's lunches every day. I used to make dinner every single night. I had very different priorities, especially when it came to finances. And unfortunately, I didn't really recognize just how much he needed to feel in control of that. You know, it's like, because I had initially just sort of submitted to that part in like him having ownership over that in the relationship. It was like, if I ever tried to question it, or if like something like to me wasn't right, it was like I was in the wrong if I brought it up to him. Or it was like just this constant, like a constant sort of bickering all the time about everything. Like Nick's one of those type of people where like you can't be right about anything unless he's Googled it. It was like if he didn't believe me about something, he would Google it. We could be talking about animals. Okay, I was in vet tech for 25 years. And like, even if it was something as basic as like where I would have an area of expertise, he would like have to look it up and like confirm it that I was right. And that just gets old. It just gets old. You know, it's like, okay, well, like it's belittling, you know? It's like it's like if you can't lean into your partner, it's like if everything I do is not okay, or is not right, then like what good am I here, you know? And I really did try to vocalize at the time, like needing like more emotional support. And it was like, it really takes an impact on your intimacy. And obviously I know from a healed space, it's hard for me to even discuss this, but I have to, because of what's happening currently. You know, like I said, this isn't an attempt to villainize anyone, and it's actually deeply uncomfortable for me to have to give the nitty-gritties, because I'd rather just be helping people heal with the wisdom that I extracted from all of these experiences, just in my normal platforms, in my normal purpose and place in this world. I have a much bigger purpose than revisiting these topics from so long ago, and not that they're not valid, because they are. Again, I'm very grateful for all of the experiences I've had in life, but it's just, this shouldn't even have to be a topic that I'm revisiting. But, you know, when people do things like what has been done to me and my kids, you don't really have a choice. It's like they want to crucify you in the public square, you know, without intervention from the people that should be intervening, and what would appear to be actually them participating in like this persecution, crucifixion. Like, I don't know what their actual intention is. Again, nobody goes this hard and this long. Like, nobody goes to this form of extreme effort without like some kind of financial gain. Like, nobody would invest this much time into isolating, suppressing, silencing, like trying to wipe somebody off the face of the earth, take their kids from them, like basically try to cancel them, unless there's some kind of financial effort. And because of the amount of people involved here that they elicited for this little Hunger Games thing that they're doing, there has to be some kind of financial gain in doing all of this. No, they did hack I have no access to my PayPal, my Cash App, my bank account. They hacked them, changed the passwords. I've emailed all of those places without any response. But again, I don't even know if they're getting my email, because they're intercepting my data. When I say I'm in a digital prison, I mean I'm actually in a digital prison. The effort that I'm having to go to just to be able to post the videos that I'm making right now is extreme. Like, it's a multi-step process. And if they want to false flag it and just take it down like they have every other platform that I've made, then I will have to do it again, I guess. I don't want to have to, so that's why I'm definitely counting on the people that take the time to listen to this to share it, to like it, to call attention to it, share it on your pages, whatever you can do, because this, again, if they're doing this to me, they're doing this to other people. Aggressive nature to keep me silenced, and for how long they have, and the actual people that are involved here. There's a lot more. Again, being ground zero of something that is extremely corrupt and extremely evil. My testimony is the evidence of what anybody would need of what is happening in our country right now, of any kind of intervention. There's no political affiliation to me. There's no race or like relationship. It's like they have no justification. And so that's what I think in particular with my situation is going to make this very unique, and also make it very difficult for whoever is behind all of this, like the entire group of people, whether it's a cult, a coven, like the occult, just the elites, or the elites, they call themselves elite. I don't consider them elite, but it's clear that they obviously sit in positions to be able to do this. And it should be very interesting who all of they are and what their actual intentions were, because we'll be finding out together. This was not about me. It's like these people did this just out of whatever is inside of them. I don't have enemies. I don't have any toxicity in my life. I don't have a relationship. I don't drink. I don't party. I barely speak to even friends. I don't really have any family, like, other than my kids. And now they are not even letting me communicate with my son. Like, it's literally that crazy. A couple of friends that I really trust, but, when you don't know who's behind, like, wanting to take you out of this world, it's scary. And when the police and the justice system, like, aren't helping you, and you're going to victim advocacy groups and they're not helping you, it really is very eye-opening as to why there are so many children missing in our country. It's very eye-opening as to how you can have like this insane act of violence where nobody does anything happen to you. And it's like nobody wants to do anything until it's them. But what people need to understand is like, this isn't, they're not biased. They're not prejudiced. Nothing about the victims and the people they're victimizing. For a long time, I think people wanted to blame it on runaways or corn workers, or it's so easy to blame it on the women, right? But is it a group of men here who seem to think that like I'm some kind of property or something? I don't know. I'm trying to not make assumptions here. I'm trying not to, but at the same time, it's like, is this how you look at women? There is like human moving, children moving, or if their intention was like smexual attention to patterns and themes. And so, if I see people that, if like I'm on my 6th platform and the same person keeps popping up and I keep trying to block them, and then they show up with another page, that lets me know that they're pursuing me. If they show up in another platform like YouTube, and I blocked them on TikTok, and like now they're showing up on my YouTube algorithm, it's like, okay, now I know that you're at least somewhat in observation of what's happening to me. I ain't trying to compete or contend or go to battle. Like, that's not my purpose in this world. And I'm fine with just allowing people to take their own journey. And if that's who you want to follow behind, and that's the type of people and energy that you want to be a part of for right now, then okay, cool. Like, no judge, go ahead. But it's like, if I'm blocking you and you keep reappearing, the way people actually live their life. And you would have to be a healed person to truly understand the inconsistency, like transparent about their testimony, about the actual work that they do. You need to question them, because there's a lot of people on social media, influencers, that like they put up this image, but then when you ask them, like, okay, well, how do you actually, like, what have you actually done? How do you actually make your money? And especially like the women that want to hold up this like boss babe image or this CEO image, and like they act very holier than thou and better than other people. And that sort of, you can hear it in the language. Like, there's a lot of comparison going on, and you don't like, it's misleading, but people sort of have to discover this on their own. I know that there are some people that would love for us to get into, certain people to get into battles with them or whatever, but my content is being controlled. And so I didn't know if like they were trying to bait me into something like that, to like take me out of character. And so I just was not going to do it. So I was just blocking people. But at the same time, you know, it is difficult when people have been misled, especially knowing that there are influencers like literally walking around with my brand and my name. Like, Lord only knows what else they're doing. Like, if they're scamming people, if, you know, when you're when you're truly a healer and a follower of Jesus Christ, and you have a big purpose in this world, and somebody takes your name, your brand, and your identity, that is very dangerous. And you have to think about the selfishness with that. Like, that is so arrogant and selfish to say, not only do I not care about you and your well-being, your children's well-being, that I'm going to imprison you in a digital cage. I'm going to infiltrate your device, give you no privacy, stalk you relentlessly and ruthlessly, and let you know that we're watching while we take everything from you. And probably going on a smear campaign again. I don't know what the narrative has necessarily been, other than the one that like my son's dad ended up getting wrapped up into. So whether he's the mastermind or not, I don't know. That's why I'm going to go through every character here. But to know that there's influencers that are doing that is scary, especially when we're talking about like in the terms of God and religion and spiritual warfare and healing, like truly healing from addictions and codependency and all of that. There's no competition in spirituality. Like, there is no competition in the kingdom of heaven. There's no competition. Like, each and every person who is being used by God needs to be used by God for their purpose, their specific and authentic purpose. Your destiny is a co-creation with God, and every one of us is just as important and has a different and unique purpose. And anybody who is truly with God would know that like there is no competition.